Okay, so let's offer our respects to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so what did we see in the previous class?
We started with the 6th chapter and we saw the Falashruti, which was attained detachment and service to the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu.
Yes, the Falashruti, attain detachment and service to the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. So what's the title of chapter 6?
Dhyana Yoga.
Dhyana Yoga.
Yes, Dhyana Yoga. So what did we see in Dhyana Yoga?
We saw one who is unattached to the fruits of his work. He is a true mystic.
Yeah, very nice. What else did we see?
And to be a true yogi, you have to renounce the desire of sense gratification.
Yes, we have to renounce the desire of sense gratification. Not only sense gratification, it also involves renouncing the desire for gratification. Very nice. What else?
So the Ashtanga Yoga.
So Ashta means
8.
8.
So Ashtanga Yoga is the 8, and these are the 8 steps of Ashtanga Yoga. We saw them in detail. So what did Krishna say? How does one perform Ashtanga Yoga? First of all, he has to
go to the forest or somewhere, no one is there, and he has to practice.
Yes. So what kind of a place? First of all, it should be a secluded place, and it also has to be a holy place. We saw that. I'm just searching for that
Then he
verse.
has to and stand with the pose, eyes little open.
Yeah, not stand. He has to sit. It's not standing. He has to
Upside down.
Huh?
Yeah.
What?
Upside down. Yes.
Yeah, it does not be too low, it has to be a little high, and it has to be on the kusha grass.
Yes, the sitting place should not be too high nor too low. He should sit on the kusha grass. On top of the kusha grass, what else he has to place?
A deer
A
skin.
skin of a deer.
A deer skin. Yes. Why a deer skin?
Because it repels
It
insects.
repels the reptiles.
Exactly.
Insects.
It repels scorpions and all that. They will not walk on the deer skin. Okay.
Yes.
So then,
And with eyes little open, not very wide open. Only open to the angle you can view your nose.
yes,
Tip of the nose.
he has to concentrate on the tip of the nose. So the eyes are not fully open, nor are they fully closed. Okay. What else?
One should not give up their duties.
Yes, the chapter begins with Krishna repeating the same point, no, that you don't have to give up your duties. So this point he makes in the beginning of chapter 3. Again, he repeats in the beginning of chapter 5. And again, in the beginning of chapter 6, he says the same thing. So he stresses upon the same thing again and again. Then we saw the concept of what is Markata Vairagya or Falgu Vairagya or Shmashana Vairagya, which is false renunciation. That is not what Krishna recommends. Because if one takes premature renunciation, then the problem is that because the desire for sense gratification has not gone away, it will lead to the fall down of the yogi. Okay, what else? Any other points you can remember? So we saw the yoga aruda and the yoga rurukshu stage. Krishna said that there are two stages, the advanced stage and the beginning stage. So beginning stage is called as yoga ruruksha and the advanced stage is called as a yoga aruda stage. Okay, any other points you can remember? About the mind, we saw how the mind can be our enemy or it can also be our best friend. When is the mind our enemy? When it is?
When we let it do whatever it wants, like fall to the temptations or
Yes. When the mind is uncontrolled, then it is our worst enemy. And if the mind is controlled, then it is our best friend.
friend.
Okay, what else? Okay, so I added this slide yesterday after I was just studying and I added this slide where the mind is compared to mantra. You know mantra from the Ramayana, right? Mantra who instigated Kaikai
Kai
to
to
ask for those two bones from Dashrath. So the mind is like mantra. And what we have to do, we have to learn from Kaikai's two mistakes. What was Kaikai's two mistakes? First of all, she listened to mantra submissively, which is she was very submissive and she just allowed mantra to talk whatever she wants to talk. Secondly, Kaike's other mistake was, okay, now she had to hear because let's say she has respect for her. She's an elderly lady and she's been her maid servant for many years. So she had to listen to her. But after listening, at least she should have consulted a higher authority. That was Kaikai's second mistake, that she did not consult a higher authority and on what is the right thing to do. She just followed what Kaikai said. So sometimes our mind may tell us many things. We should not listen to the mind submissively. And if we have to hear, then at least we should consult a higher authority. Now, in the case of Arjuna, even he did not want to fight. He was coming up with so many explanations on why he should not fight the war. We saw all that in chapter 1. Arjuna's 5 reasons why he should not fight the war. But what goes to Arjuna's credit is he consulted a higher authority. He consulted Krishna. Okay, this is what is going on in my mind. This is what I think. But I accept you as my spiritual master. Please instruct me. Arjuna tells Krishna, please instruct me. So that goes to Arjuna's credit that he consulted a higher authority. But Kaikai's mistake was she did not consult a higher authority. So when mind plays games with us, we should consult a higher authority and not just follow the dictates of the mind. Okay, what else? And coming to this, this is another slide that I added last night. Coming to this concept of equal vision, Sama Darshi or the Sama Buddhi, where a devotee should see everything with an equal vision. We have to remember that this equal vision is not for us to when we receive knowledge from someone. It's not that okay, I see everybody equally so I can receive knowledge from anyone. No, there we have to discriminate. right? Because we want to receive knowledge only from a bona fide authority. But when it comes to giving knowledge, then yes, we can see everybody with an equal vision. Not that I give knowledge only to someone who is advanced and somebody who's very fallen, very sinful. I don't want to give knowledge to a person. That should not be the attitude. Yes. So the Sama Buddhi and Sama Darshi, which we saw in the previous chapter, we have to apply when we have to give knowledge, not when we have to receive knowledge. When we receive knowledge, there we have to discriminate. Okay. So any questions, doubts from the previous class? Okay, let's begin today's session. Please repeat Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Okay, 6.15.
युञ्जन् एवं सदात्मानं योगी नियतमानसः शान्तिं निर्वाणपरमां मत्संस्थामधिगच्छति.
Oh, we need volunteers for reading. Who can volunteer to read today?
I can do translation.
Okay, thank you, Paraya. And for the other text?
Okay, Mataji, I don't mind doing the other text.
Okay, thank you, Anjali. So let's read the translation.
Thus, practicing constant control of the body, mind, and activities, the mystic transcendentalist, his mind regulated, attains to the kingdom of God or the abode of Krishna by cessation of material existence.
So here, Krishna is explaining what is it that an Ashtanga yogi attains after long practice of this Ashtanga yoga. What is it that he's going to get? What does he gain? Right? So what is it that he gains? He attains to the kingdom of God or the abode of Krishna. So this is the goal of Ashtanga yoga. The goal of Ashtanga yoga is not gymnastic feats or to maintain a slim and trim body or to live a long life because we discussed how by the control of breathing, these yogis can live a long life. So yes, these are the side benefits. Okay, by practicing the asanas, one may maintain a slim and trim body, etc. So these are the side benefits that one gets, but that is not the goal of Ashtanga yoga. Another side benefit that an Ashtanga yogi gets when he performs Ashtanga yoga is he develops mystic powers. So there are some siddhis, it's called. Because of their Ashtanga yoga process, they develop some supernatural powers, like they can make themselves lighter than the lightest, or they can make themselves heavier than the heaviest. They can walk on water, they can transport themselves from one place to the other place, right? So like that, there are some siddhis, and they attain these powers, these siddhis, because of following this Ashtanga yoga. But again, this attaining these siddhis is not the goal of Ashtanga yoga. So the danger is what happens, sometimes they may get distracted by these side benefits and they forget the goal of Ashtanga yoga. That's the reason why sometimes we see people, they have some powers, right? And because of that powers, then it goes to the head and they begin to misguide people because they want to have some followers, they want to have some money. So they start misguiding the people, and the poor innocent people, because of their lack of knowledge, they think that these people who are performing some magical feats, they are God, right? So this is these siddhis or these powers they get because of following Ashtanga yoga process. But again, this is not the goal of Ashtanga yoga. Okay.
नात्यश्नतस्तु योगोऽस्ति न चैकान्तमनश्नतः न चातिस्वप्नशीलस्य जाग्रतो नैव चार्जुन.
There is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi. O Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough.
So here Krishna is talking about some obstacles for an Ashtanga yogi. He has to regulate his eating and his sleeping. Actually, in any yoga process or any spiritual process, it's very important to regulate our eating and regulate our sleeping. According to Ayurveda, what is the right balance one must have in the stomach? How much should we fill our stomach with food?
2/3.
If we join our two hands, how much the quantity will be? I think.
Oh, is it? I have not heard about that. So
Because I heard in the Bhakti Vrikshakas, actually nowadays artificially we are making like bowls, plates, everything and eating too much without any limit. But actually God given us two hands, we are taking prasad with those. So whatever the quantity fixed in our two hands, when we open, that only we have to eat.
Okay. But anyway, according to Ayurveda, we fill half our stomach with food, 1/4 space we leave for water, and 1/4 space we leave for air to circulate. This is the right quantity. We should not eat till our stomach is full. Okay, half food, 1/4 water, 1/4 air. That is the right proportion according to Ayurveda. And sleeping, according to Shastras, anyone who sleeps for more than 6 hours in a 24-hour period is said to be in the mode of ignorance, tamoguna. Remember, ignorance, people in the mode of ignorance are lazy, and inactivity is one of the characteristics of the mode of ignorance. So 6 hours, maximum 6 hours, not minimum, maximum 6 hours in a 24-hour period is what is recommended. And of course, there are devotees who have slept for very less period. For example, Haridas Thakur, he would chant his 192 rounds and then only he would take rest. So 192 rounds, you can imagine chanting for about 22 hours in a day. And the remaining 2 hours or less than 2 hours, he would take rest in a 24-hour period. And even Sri Rupa Goswami, one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, he would also sleep for only 2 hours in a 24-hour period. Because they are so advanced that 2 hours of rest is sufficient for their body to be able to use their body in the service of the Lord. That the reason why they sleep for those 2 hours also is so that they can use the body in the service of Krishna, not because they themselves personally want to take this. So it's very important to regulate eating and sleeping for our sadhana. Okay. 17.
युक्ताहारविहारस्य युक्तचेष्टस्य कर्मसु युक्तस्वप्नावबोधस्य योगो भवति दुःखः.
He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system.
So not only does he have to regulate his eating and sleeping, but he also has to regulate recreation and work. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he's an acharya in our disciplic succession. He comments that the only recreation for a yogi is that he can go out and take a walk. Okay. But anyway, for a Krishna conscious person, the being in Krishna consciousness itself is a recreation. Why? Because Prabhupada, he established, no, in Krishna consciousness, you can walk your way back to Godhead by eating, what was that? Chant, dance, and take prasadam, he would say. Chant, dance, and take prasadam. And then you walk your way back to Krishna consciousness. So when we go for a Janmashtami feast, or we go for these Friday feast or Sunday feast lectures in the temple, we meet so many devotees, right? There is nice kirtan going on. People are dancing in the kirtan. There is nice prasad. So that is a recreation for a Krishna conscious person. Okay. So this part we will come back at the end of the chapter. We'll go to 6.18 now.
यदा विनियतं चित्तम् आत्मन्येवावतिष्ठते निःस्पृहः सर्वकामेभ्यो युक्त इत्युच्यते तदा.
When the yogi practice of yoga disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga.
So now Krishna is saying that when the yogi's mind is undisturbed or disciplined, and when he is nishpra sarva kamebhyo, when he is devoid of all material desires, and he is situated in transcendence, then he is called as a yukta. See the last word in the first word in the last line. He is considered to be yukta, or he is well situated in yoga, or he is connected. So then here the yogi becomes perfect.
यथा दीपो निवातस्थो नेङ्गते सोपमा स्मृता योगिनो यतचित्तस्य युञ्जतो योगमात्मनः.
As a lamp in a windless place does not waver, so the transcendentalist, whose mind is controlled, remains always steady in his meditation on the transcendent self.
So here Krishna is giving an analogy to explain the point he made in 6.18. In 6.18, what did he say? That a person is supposed to be yukta, or he is perfect. He is well situated in yoga when his mind is undisturbed. Yes. So here he is explaining that concept in with an analogy. What is the analogy? He says, as a lamp in a windless place does not waver. In the same way, a yogi whose mind is controlled, he remains steady in his meditation. So according to this analogy, the chitta is compared to what?
The mind,
The
soul,
mind. Yes, chitta is the mind. Chitta means mind, and mind compared to the flame. Okay. So then material desires would be compared to what? The flame
the
can
wind,
be put out by
The
the wind,
wind.
wind. Yes, wind. So steady focus of chitta on atma is compared to,
focus of the mind on the soul, on the
Old mind.
yes, no, that's yes, but in the analogy with regard
the
to the
analogy,
flame,
the
that is
mind on
compared
the
to,
Meditation.
no, in terms, see, chitta means flame, material desires means wind. So focus of the chitta on the atma is compared to what in the analogy?
to the Lord, to Krishna.
No,
Focus on.
Focus the mind on
The mind that is controlled by meditation.
yeah, see,
Like a wick.
I'm asking in the analogy with regard to the flame, the candle, the wind. So when the focus, when the chitta or the mind is focused on atma, in the analogy, it is compared to fire, light. Okay, steady flame.
Flame.
Yes,
Is it
steady
flame?
flame. That's what in the example, in the analogy, I was asking. So anyway, this is the analogy that Krishna gives to explain the point in 6.3. Okay, now we'll do 20 to 23 together.
यत्रो परमते चित्तं निरुद्धं योगसेवया यत्र चैवात्मनात्मानं पश्यन्नात्मनि तुष्यति सुखमात्यन्तिकं यत्तद् बुद्धिग्राह्यमतीन्द्रियं वेत्ति यत्र न चैवायं स्थितश्चलति तत्त्वतः यं लब्ध्वा चापरं लाभं मन्यते नाधिकं ततः यस्मिन् स्थितो न दुःखेन गुरुणापि विचाल्यते तं विद्यात् दुःखसंयोग वियोगं योगसंज्ञितम्.
In the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact.
So here Krishna is describing the realization of the Ashtanga yogi. What he's saying, after doing all of the above, which Krishna has described, now he has reached perfection. And after reaching perfection, he is very, very happy, he's very joyous, and he has escaped from all miseries, Krishna says. But the point we have to understand is, unless if he does all this, if he reaches samadhi, which is the perfectional stage of Ashtanga yoga, then he is considered successful. But if he does not reach that stage and then he fails before that, then he is considered to be unsuccessful. Then he is going to have to start everything all over again. So the danger is, as we described earlier, that there is the probability that he will get distracted with the byproducts of Ashtanga yoga. 24.
स निश्चयेन योक्तव्यो योगो निर्विण्णचेतसा सङ्कल्पप्रभवान् कामांस् त्यक्त्वा सर्वान् शेषतः मनसैवेन्द्रियग्रामं विनियम्य समं ततः.
One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith and not be deviated from the path. One should abandon without exception all material desires born of mental speculations and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind.
So here Krishna, actually here in 24 and 25, Krishna describes the methods to attain the yoga arudha or the advanced stage. So what are the qualities he's mentioning here? He says that one has to have determination, one has to have faith, and one should not deviate from the path. So for determination, what does one require? Even in spiritual, I mean, yes, of course, Ashtanga yoga, but we can apply these lessons for an Ashtanga yogi in our own spiritual lives as well. For one to be determined in spiritual life, what does one require? One requires some enthusiasm, right? If there is no enthusiasm to continue, then it will also affect our determination. Then faith, and one should not be deviated from the path. So for one to not be deviated from the path, one has to have a lot of patience, because sometimes the results may not come as quickly as we want it to come, right? How much success we get depends on so many factors: what we did in our previous life, how much our consciousness is contaminated, what kind of association we have. There are so many factors that go into all these things. So we need uh, determination, faith, and patience. So the lesson for us, see here, Krishna uses the word in the second line, anirvina chetasa, which means one should not be distracted or dejected. So yes, we cannot help that the mind sometimes may stray away when we are doing our chanting or chanting the holy name or following any sadhana or principles. The mind may stray away, but we have to bring the mind back. We do not let the mind stay away there for long time, and definitely not eternally, right? So sometimes the mind may stray away, but we bring the mind back. It's because remember we learned in the third chapter. Where is that verse? One second. Okay, I can't find it. So let's go back. We learned in the third chapter how intelligence is higher than the mind. So using our intelligence, we have to bring the mind back on track. So the mind may stray away, but we should not let it stay away. We have to bring it back. Now, see, we spoke about these three qualities: enthusiasm, patience, and faith. Now, let's say somebody in their spiritual life does not, N means no and Y means yes. Okay. Now, he has no enthusiasm and he has no faith and he only has patience. Then he is said to be in the mode of ignorance, because ignorance is characterized by inactivity. So there is no enthusiasm, there is no faith, so there is no activity, and only patience is there. On the other hand, if he has only enthusiasm, no patience, and no faith, then he is said to be in the mode of passion. Passion means lot of activity, right? So enthusiasm is there, but there is no patience and there is no faith. Now, third case, somebody has enthusiasm, somebody has patience, but has no faith. Then he's said to be in the mode of goodness. Yes, he's enthusiastic, he also has patience, but faith is lacking. So qualities are there in him, but if he has no faith, he's only in the mode of goodness. But what one has to do, one has to transcend the mode of goodness, go beyond the mode of goodness, come to the transcendental stage. So when one is in the transcendental stage of goodness, or Shuddha Sattva stage, it is called, then he has to have all these three qualities: enthusiasm, patience, and faith. All these three things are required.
Mataji, how do one create this situation where there's the enthusiasm is kind of flows? What activities can, of course, Sankirtan and yoga and all this Ashtanga yoga path is there, but you know, to stay in that constant state of enthusiasm, what should the devotee do?
The devotee requires a lot of, first of all, read the Shastras and always stay in devotee association. So when our enthusiasm is down, but when we are in a group of people, when we are with other devotees, then the enthusiasm rubs onto us as well. You know, that's why we have temples. Somebody asked this question, why do you need temples? If I mean, we can chant 16 rounds and follow the four principles in our homes, yes, but when we go to a temple and we associate with other devotees, then when we see the enthusiasm of other people, then that enthusiasm will rub onto us as well, and it helps us to go on with that. So we have to have devotee association for uttaha, for enthusiasm.
Mhm. Thank you.
You're welcome. So with regard to determination, Prabhupada explains this very nice story in the pulpit about a sparrow and the determination of the sparrow. Let's read this.
Bhagavad Gita 6.24. As for determination, one should follow the example of the sparrow who lost her eggs in the wave of the ocean. A sparrow laid her eggs on the shore of the ocean, but the big ocean carried away the eggs on its waves. The sparrow became very upset and asked the ocean to return her eggs. The ocean did not consider her appeal, so the sparrow decided to dry up the ocean. She began to pick up the water in her small beak, and everyone laughed at her for her impossible determination. The news of her activity spread, and at last Garuda, the giant bird carrier of Lord Vishnu, heard it. He became compassionate towards this small sister bird and so he came to see the sparrow. Garuda was very pleased by the determination of the small sparrow, and he promised to help. Thus Garuda at once asked the ocean to return her eggs, lest he make himself take up the work of the sparrow. The ocean was frightened at this and returned the eggs. Thus the sparrow became happy by the grace of Garuda.
So what's the conclusion of the story? Yes, we cannot get anything, we cannot achieve anything without the blessings of our superiors, without the blessing of our spiritual master, our acharya. We cannot gain anything. We cannot gain success in our spiritual life. But for us to get the mercy of our superiors, we have to show our sincerity. In this case, the sparrow was very sincere, and it is the sincerity of the sparrow that attracted Garuda, and Garuda did the task for the sparrow. So the sparrow definitely has determination, has patience, and has faith, enthusiasm, and therefore the task was carried out. Otherwise, the sparrow is so insignificant. I mean, if you see the picture, if you don't observe closely, you may even miss seeing the sparrow. You cannot even observe, you cannot even see that the sparrow is there. That's how insignificant the sparrow is. But because of the sincerity of the sparrow, it attracted the mercy of Garuda. Who is Garuda?
He's Lord Vishnu's Vahana.
Yes, Vahana of Lord Vishnu. Yes, very nice. Okay, let's go to point 25.
शनै शनैरुपरमे बुद्ध्या धृतिगृहीतया आत्मसंस्थं मनः कृत्वा न किञ्चिदपि चिन्तये.
Gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence sustained by full convictions, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else.
So in 25, Krishna is mentioning 3 more qualities to attain the advanced stage or the yoga arudha stage. What are the 3 qualities he mentions here? He says that gradually, step by step, not that one rushes into, okay, passion. Today I'm going to chant 64 rounds, but then tomorrow, can you sustain it? So gradually, step by step. Then intelligence sustained by full conviction. So we have to use our intelligence. And how can we sustain that intelligence in our spiritual life? By full conviction. When we are fully convinced that yes, we are eternal servants of Krishna, then we can use our intelligence to advance in our spiritual life. And third, mind should be fixed on the self alone, not that the mind is wandering here and there. So these are the 3 more qualities that Krishna mentions to attain the advanced stage.
यतो यतो निश्चलति मनश्चञ्चलमस्थिरम् ततस्ततो नियम्यैतद् आत्मन्येव वशं नये.
From wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self.
So see here, Krishna is using 3 adjectives to describe the mind. He says that the mind is nishchalati. Nishchalati means?
Every time disturbing. No consistency.
Yes. So in the synonyms, how does Prabhupada translate it? Nishchalati?
So the mind becomes
Agitated.
Becomes very easily agitated. So it wanders very easily. Then chanchalam. Chanchalam means it is
flickering.
flickering. Yes.
Every time move from one place to other.
Yes. And then asthiram. Asthiram means it is
Unsteady.
unsteady. So here Krishna is saying that the mind is nishchalati, it is chanchalam, it is asthiram. So we have to control it before it controls us, right? Okay, so here we have the 3 qualities. The mind on autopilot leads us to destruction, not destination. So let's take the example that there is this flight that's cruising along. There are no disturbances, and therefore the pilots have put the plane on autopilot mode. Now they are not riding the plane. The plane is on the autopilot mode. It's going automatically. So as long as the plane is cruising, no disturbances, the pilots are maintaining that autopilot mode. But the moment there is some disturbance, then immediately the pilots are going to take over. Yes, they are not going to let the plane cruise on autopilot when there is disturbance in the aircraft. So immediately they take over. Our mind is also like that. We can put our mind on autopilot for our daily activities. So every day we wake up, we brush our teeth, have our bath, go to work, or attend to our duties. Children go to school. For our daily, day-to-day activities, we can put our mind on autopilot, no problem. But the moment there is some disturbance, the moment the mind starts to wander away, the moment the mind starts to flicker and is becoming unsteady, then we do not put the mind on autopilot. Then we have to take over. Then we have to control the mind before the mind can control us. 27.
प्रशान्तमनसं ह्येनं योगिनं सुखमुत्तमम् उपैति शान्तरजसं ब्रह्मभूतमकल्मषम्.
The yogis whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. He is beyond the mode of passion. He realizes his qualitative identity with the Supreme, and thus he is freed from all reactions to past deeds.
So here Krishna is describing the Brahma Bhuta stage, the last line, Brahma Bhuta stage. What is this Brahma Bhuta stage? Brahma Bhuta stage is when the yogi is beyond the mode of passion and ignorance. He realizes his qualitative identity with the Supreme. So he realizes that he is the same as the Lord in quality. He is Sachitananda, just like the Lord. Then therefore, now he is freed from all reactions to past deeds. That means he is free from all sinful reactions. That is the Brahma Bhuta stage. 28.
युञ्जन्येवं सदात्मानं योगी विगतकल्मषः सुखेन ब्रह्म संस्पर्शम् अत्यन्तं सुखमश्नुते.
Thus, the self controlled yogi, constantly engaged in yoga practice, becomes free from all material contamination and achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness in transcendental loving service to the Lord.
So in 6.27, Krishna described the Brahma Bhuta stage. In 6.28, he is describing the Brahma Samparsham stage, the third line, Brahma Samparsham stage. Brahma Samparsham stage means transcendental contact with the Supreme. Samparsham means contact, and Brahma means the Supreme. So Brahma Samparsham stage. So not only has he discovered in according to 27 that he is qualitatively the same as the Lord, but he also realizes, he recognizes that his constitutional position is to serve the Lord. And in his transcendental loving service to the Lord, he attains the highest stage of perfect happiness. So this is describing the Brahma Samparsha stage. So why does he attain so much joy? Why does one feel so much happiness when one does some seva? Nobody is paying, nobody is receiving a salary. And how many of us would be willing to go for a job and work for a boss if the boss is not going to pay us anything at the end of the month? Right? I don't think so anybody would be willing to do that. But when it comes to serving the Lord, when it comes to engaging in devotional service to the Lord, one experiences a lot of joy. The reason being, material happiness with the advancement of time only reduces, comes down. But spiritual happiness, as time progresses, the more we engage in devotional service, the more we engage in spiritual activity, the happiness curve is only going up and up and up. So the happiness is not only getting maintained, it is increasing, it is ever increasing. The joy is ever increasing. But that's not the case with the joy we experience in the material world. In the material world, one may get happy, one may be happy for some period of time, but very soon uh, that joy disappears. So when we go to the 18th chapter, we will see this verse where Krishna describes how material happiness may appear like nectar. N means nectar, P is poison. So material happiness appears like nectar in the beginning, but is poison at the end. On the other hand, spiritual happiness may appear to be poisonous in the beginning, but eventually it is nectarian. Why would spiritual happiness appear poisonous in the beginning? Is because when we start with our spiritual life, sometimes we may feel hassled. Oh, we have to follow these rules and regulations. I cannot do this. I cannot do this. I have to do that. I have to sacrifice this and sacrifice that. So we may feel like we are being restricted. So it may appear to be poison in the beginning, but at the end we only receive nectar. Okay, let's go to 6.29.
सर्वभूतस्थमात्मानं सर्वभूतानि चात्मनि ईक्षते योगयुक्तात्मा सर्वत्र समदर्शनः.
A true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self realized person sees me, the same Supreme Lord, everywhere.
So 6.29 and 6.30, these two verses focus on the vision of a perfect yogi. So how does a perfect yogi see? He sees the super soul in all living entities and all living entities in the super soul. This is the vision, Samma Darshana. This is the vision of a true yogi. So God is neutral. He is present in the heart of the dog. He is present in the heart of the human being. He is present in the heart of Lord Brahma also equally. So the Lord is not partial. So here you can see the vision of a true yogi.
यो मां पश्यति सर्वत्र सर्वं च मयि पश्यति तस्याहं न प्रणश्यामि स च मे न प्रणश्यति.
For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I'm never lost, nor is he ever lost to me.
So such a yogi at this stage of Paramatma realization, because remember in 29 he has seen the super soul and all living entities and all living entities in the super soul. So he has reached the stage of realizing the Paramatma. So once this person, he reaches the stage of Paramatma realization, he never falls down from, he is never lost means he never falls down from this path.
सर्वभूतस्थितं यो मां भजत्येकत्वमास्थितः सर्वथा वर्तमानोऽपि स योगी मयि वर्तते.
Such a yogi who engages in the worshipful service of the Supreme Soul, knowing that I and the Super Soul are one, remain always in me in all circumstances.
So now see, Krishna is showing the progression. Now this Ashtanga yogi, he has attained the Paramatma realization. He has seen the Paramatma. Now what happens? What happens next? Obviously now he has realized the Paramatma. Now he wants to serve the Lord. He see such a yogi who engages in the worshipful service of the super soul, knowing that I and the super soul are one. Who is this I here? Who is speaking the verse?
Krishna?
Krishna, yes. Knowing that Krishna and the super soul are one, remains always in me in all circumstances. So once this yogi, he realizes the Paramatma, he sees the Paramatma, and he realizes that this Paramatma is none other than Krishna. He's the same person. Now he wants to serve Krishna. That's the progression that Krishna is talking about. After he has attained the Paramatma realization, now automatically he wants to serve Krishna.
आत्मौपम्येन सर्वत्र समं पश्यति योऽर्जुन सुखं वा यदि वा दुःखं स योगी परमो मतः.
He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings in both their happiness and their distress, O Arjuna.
So again, Krishna is talking about being equal in happiness and distress. So why? What is the reason for one to be in distress? The real reason?
Reason is expectation, so they will not get.
Yeah. The original reason. What? Okay. When we forget our relationship with Krishna, that brings us distress. That's the root cause of all our distress.
Desires.
And when we can, everything comes from there. That's the root cause, no? Because we have it's like a child his parents, his father is the richest man in town, but he has forgotten his relationship with his father, and he is loitering around in the streets without food, without money, without proper clothes, without shelter, because he has forgotten his relationship with his father. And when is he going to be happy? When he remembers his relationship with his father and he's united with his father, then he's going to be happy. That's the root cause of all this boy who has forgotten his father. The root cause of his suffering is that no, he's loitering, he wants desires, he's hungry, then he may decide to rob, do something wrong, so engage in sinful activity. Everything is coming from the fact that he has forgotten his relationship with his father. So we also, living entities, our root cause of distress is that we have forgotten our relationship with Krishna. And we will attain happiness when we revive our lost relationship with the Lord. Only then we are going to be happy. And that's why what is the greatest social service that one can do? Let's say this boy is loitering around on the street, and a social service worker approaches him and gives him some nice clothes to wear, gives him some food to eat, gives him a nice house to stay in. Yes, very nice. But how long is that going to last? But if that social worker inquires as to who is the father of this lost child and unites him with his father, then that is going to be the greatest service that he can do to this boy, isn't it? And that's the reason why preaching is considered to be the highest social service. Opening of an orphanage, hospitals, old age homes, feeding the poor. Yes, very nice. But it's not the highest social service. Preaching is the highest social service because it's by preaching that one can revive the lost relationship with the Lord, or take the child back and unite him with his father. Then the father is going to take care of him. No, he will take care of his food, shelter, clothing, everything else the father will take care. So that's the highest social service. Okay. So now we come to the next section, where we will see what is Arjuna's opinion on this Ashtanga Yoga. Now, Krishna has described in detail how to do this process. What is it that what one gains by doing Ashtanga Yoga? So let us see what is Arjuna's opinion on this. 33. Now it is going to be Arjuna Uvacha.
अर्जुन उवाच योऽयं योगस्त्वया प्रोक्तः साम्येन मधुसूदन एतस्याहं न पश्यामि चञ्चलत्वात् स्थितिं स्थिराम्.
Arjuna said, O Madhusudana, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady.
So what does Arjuna say? What is Arjuna's opinion on Ashtanga Yoga? Does he like it?
No.
He doesn't
No,
like it. What does he say? He says it is impractical and unendurable. So Arjuna thinks that this Ashtanga yoga process is not practical. It cannot be practiced, and unendurable. It will not last for long. To me, Arjuna says. So imagine a person like Arjuna who has personal association with Krishna. He's a pure devotee, and he says that he finds it unpractical and unendurable. Then how many of us stand a chance to perform
Very
Ashtanga?
little, nothing, no chance.
Yeah, impossible. No chance. No chance at all. So what's the reason Arjuna gives?
Chanchalam hi manah Krishna pramati balavadridham tasyaham nigraham manye vayoriva sudushkaram.
The mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong. O Krishna, and to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the wind.
So the reason Arjuna thinks that is not practical and it is unendurable is because he finds that the mind, the mana, is chanchalam, ramati, balavat, and tridam. Chanchalam means it is
Flickering.
flickering, very restless. The mind is very restless, always flickering. Then pramati, it is agitating, very turbulent. The mind is mad, right? Then balavat means it is very strong. And dridam means it is very obstinate, very stubborn. So he's saying that because the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, it's not possible to subdue the mind. And he says, Arjuna says that it is more difficult to subdue the mind than to subdue the wind. So he's saying it's easy for me to control the wind, but I cannot control the mind.
He's calling Krishna by various names. First he called Madhusudana, then he's calling O Krishna.
Yes.
Mataji, is little, I'm deviating it, but how did Radha and Mirabai and all these devotees, like who also had this human body, and they also had the same mind, and they could focus it without this Ashtanga yoga and all. What was the reason they could achieve that so easily as compared to the yogis who have to go through and follow this difficult path? Even Arjuna, when he's seeing these challenges and he's confessing and questioning Lord Krishna about it.
Okay, so first of all, we have to understand that Srimati Radharani, she does not have a material body. She also has a completely spiritual body, just like Krishna. Okay, so she doesn't have a material body. Her body is completely spiritual, although it appears to us that she has a material body. But coming to the question as to how we can do it, that's why if you read the purports of Ashtanga Yoga, we'll discuss that at the end of the chapter. But in short, if you read the purports of Ashtanga Yoga, you will see how Prabhupada continuously is hammering the point that one must engage in Bhakti Yoga. Okay, although Krishna is talking about Ashtanga Yoga, Prabhupada in the purports, he compares every time, he's every time focusing on, no, don't do this, follow Bhakti Yoga, follow Bhakti Yoga, follow Bhakti Yoga. So that's why it's not possible for us to do it, right? Because Arjuna himself says that the mind cannot be controlled. So we cannot do it. It's possible. Therefore, follow Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga, yes, we have to control the mind, but how do we control the mind? Not by just withdrawing the mind from material activities, but by engaging the mind in spiritual activities. See, an Ashtanga yogi is in the forest. He's all alone. He's in a secluded place. So first of all, what he is lacking, there is association. There is no association. So it's a very dangerous position. Here in Bhakti Yoga, when we have association, if I go away from my path, I will have somebody to tell me, hey, what are you doing? Get back on track. So we will have, if we have devotee friends or devotee family, then they bring you back on track. But an Ashtanga yogi is all alone in the forest. Who is there to correct him? For example, in the story of Maharaj Bharat, when he went to the forest and he was doing very well, but then he got attached to the deer. Have we done that story in our classes? The story of Maharaj Bharat being attached to the deer?
This one, Mataji, I think he got the body of bird next Janma. That one only?
Yes. So Maharaj Bharat, when he went to the forest, right, he was living in a secluded place and he was doing very well in his sadhana. But then one day he saw a mother deer giving birth to another deer and the mother died. So Maharaj Bharat started to take care of that baby deer, the just born baby deer, which is very nice, no problem. But then he got so attached to that baby deer that it started to affect his sadhana. When he is doing his spiritual activity, his mind was wandering on what will happen to the deer. Is the deer doing well? What will happen to it after I die, after I go away? Who will take it? So it started to affect his consciousness so much that at the time of death, he was thinking about the deer, and he was born as a deer in his next lifetime. So that is the danger. If Maharaj, if he was in devotee association, somebody would have told him that, you know what, you are becoming too obsessed with that deer and it is affecting your spiritual life. Please take care of that, get back on track. But for an Ashtanga yogi, it's not possible. That's why Prabhupada hammers the point that do bhakti yoga, do bhakti yoga, do bhakti yoga, do bhakti yoga. So one may think that, oh, why is Prabhupada focusing on Bhakti Yoga when Krishna is talking about Ashtanga Yoga? Isn't the Guru supposed to tell us only what Krishna speaks? So if somebody asks that question, how to answer that question? The answer to that question is that a devotee is more merciful than the Lord himself. Yes. Now Krishna in the 18th chapter, he says, Sarva dharmam parityaja. Just abandon all varieties of religion. So after Krishna has explained karma yoga, dhyana yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, everything he has explained, but in the end, in the conclusion, then Krishna says, give up everything, he says. Just surrender unto me. So that is the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is not saying that now, yes, but Krishna will say that in the 18th chapter. But the conclusion of the Gita, Prabhupada is telling us now itself. Why? Because he knows not everybody who's reading now, chapter 6, is going to be around for chapter 18. Not everybody is going to finish reading the book. Not everybody is going to come to that conclusion and get that lesson. So he is giving the conclusion now itself for our benefit, out of his mercy. That's why Prabhupada has it. Okay. So yes, it's not possible. It's only possible in Bhakti Yoga. Okay.
Very beautiful. Thank you so much, Mataji. It's the same Maharaj Bharat, Yogi Bharat became Jar Bharat in the next birth?
Yes.
Mataji?
Yes. After the deer's body, then he became Jada Bharata in the third lifetime. That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, so now coming to this mind, qualities of the mind, Prabhupada explains this with an analogy. So the mind is the mind is compared to the driving instrument of a chariot. Now, in this analogy, the individual soul or we are the passengers on the chariot. Or so the soul is in the body. So the body is compared to a chariot and the soul is compared to the passenger of the chariot. Now, the driver of that chariot is our intelligence. And the mind is the driving instrument or the reins of the horses by which the driver is controlling the horses. Those reins are compared to the mind, and the senses are compared to the horses. So this passenger of the chariot has to instruct the driver to control the horses with the reins. In the same way, the mind has to be controlled by by our intelligence. Because remember, higher than the senses is the mind, higher than the mind is the intelligence. So we have to control the mind by our intelligence. We have to control the horses or the senses by the reins, by the driving instrument. This is the analogy that that Prabhupada explains from the Upanishads in the purpose. 35.
श्रीभगवानुवाच असंशयं महाबाहो मनो दुर्निग्रहं चलम् अभ्यासेन तु कौन्तेय वैराग्येण च गृह्यते.
Lord Shri Krishna said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment.
So now Krishna is answering Arjuna's concern, right? And Krishna is acknowledging that, yes, oh Arjuna, he acknowledges that, yes, it is indeed very, very difficult to curb the restless mind. But then Krishna is not rejecting the process here yet, okay? He will reject it in the last chapter. But what is he saying here? It is possible by two factors. What is that? Practice and detachment. By vairagya and abhyasa. Abhyasa means practice and vairagya means detachment. So by abhyasa and vairagya, it is possible to do this Ashtanga yoga. So Prabhu, as I explained before, these principles of Ashtanga yoga we can apply in our bhakti yoga as well. So Prabhupada gives this analogy. The mad mind is like a diseased patient, right? And this disease has to be treated. For treatment of a disease, first of all, we have to take treatment from an expert doctor, and we have to have the proper diet. So the doctor tells us, okay, you take these medicines, at the same time you follow this diet. So following that diet is the detachment, okay? And taking the treatment is following the 9 items of bhakti: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedanam, the 9 items of bhakti which we have discussed before. So that is like taking the treatment. And who's the doctor in this case who's going to give us this treatment and the diet? It's the spiritual master. Okay. So when we have a disease, we have to go to the doctor, and not only go to the doctor, we have to follow the doctor's instruction. In the same way, we are all materially diseased. So we need a doctor, we need a spiritual master. So we go to the spiritual master and then we follow the instructions of the spiritual master. If we follow the instructions of the spiritual master, then we will be cured of our material disease. 36.
असंयतात्मना योगो दुष्प्राप इति मे मतिः वश्यात्मना तु यतता शक्यो वाप्तुमुपायतः.
For one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work. But he whose mind is controlled and who strives by appropriate means is assured of success. That is my opinion.
So one who cannot accept the proper treatment, one who cannot do vairagya and abhyasa, then for such a person, it is not possible to attain self-realization. He cannot be cured of the disease if he doesn't take the treatment given to him by the doctor. So trying to attain self-realization without taking the proper treatment is equal to igniting a fire while pouring water on it at the same time. It's not possible. One cannot attain success. So this is the analogy that Prabhupada gives in the purport. Let's read this text.
Who would like to?
Trying to practice yoga while engaging the mind in material enjoyment is like trying to ignite a fire while pouring water on it. Similarly, yoga practice without mental control is a waste of time. Bhagavad Gita 6.36. Purpose Sri Prabhupada.
Okay. So now let's go to section number 5.
अर्जुन उवाच अयति हि श्रद्धयोपेतो योगाच्चलितमानसः अप्राप्य योगसंसिद्धिं कां गतिं कृष्ण गच्छति.
Arjuna said, O Krishna, What is the destination of the unsuccessful transcendentalist who in the beginning takes to the process of self-realization with faith, but who later desists due to worldly mindedness and thus does not attain perfection in mysticism?
So see Arjuna's concern. Now Krishna has described Ashtanga Yoga. Then Arjuna says that it is not practical to follow. Krishna says, yes, it is difficult, I agree, but by abhyasa and vairagya, by detachment and practice, it can be possible. Now Arjuna says, okay, so in that case, he wants to know what happens if somebody has taken to the process. He is sincere. It's not that he's cheating. He has sincerely taken to the process, but for some reason or the other, the mind has wandered and he has not been able to successfully complete the process. Then what is the destination of such a person? Arjuna wants to know, because now he sees that it is not possible. So what if somebody has taken the process but is unable to complete it? Let's
We
see,
will again take, yeah.
let's see what Krishna, okay, let's see what Arjuna says further, then Krishna will answer his question.
कच्चिन्नो भयविभ्रष्टः छिन्नाभ्रमिव नश्यति अप्रतिष्ठो महाबाहो विमूढो ब्रह्मणः पथि.
O mighty arm Krishna, does not such a man who is bewildered from the path of transcendence fall away from both spiritual and material success and perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere?
So now Arjuna is saying, what will happen to such a person? He is neither a materialist nor a spiritualist. See, fall away from both spiritual and material success. So because he has taken to spirituality, he has not enjoyed materially. But because he has not fully succeeded in his spiritual life, he is not completely spiritual. So what happens to such a person who is neither material nor spiritual? He has not reaped the benefits of neither material life nor spiritual life. So what happens to him? And what is the comparison here? Arjuna is saying, is he like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere? So is he like this cloud which has broken out from a big cloud and is just moving here and there in the air, right? He is not fully with the big cloud. So is he like just wandering in space and there is no real position for him because he has got divided from the main big cloud? Is he like that? Means na yahan ka na wahan ka. He's not fully material, not fully spiritual. So what is his position then? Arjuna wants to know.
एतन्मे संशयं कृष्ण छेतुमर्हस्य शेषतः त्वदन्यः संशयस्यास्य छेत्ता न ह्युपपद्यते.
This is my doubt, O Krishna, and I ask you to dispel it completely. But for you, no one is to be found who can destroy this doubt.
So Arjuna is saying, I want you to remove this doubt for me. And he says that other than you, nobody else can remove this doubt. He says, no one is to be found who can destroy this doubt but for you, O Krishna. So on what basis is Arjuna saying that? On what basis is Arjuna saying that only Krishna can remove this doubt? Because first of all, Krishna, he knows past, present, and future. Remember previously Krishna told him that you remember only this lifetime, but I remember all my, all the previous births of you and me, of all the living entities. So Krishna, he knows past, present, and future. And because nobody is greater than or equal to Krishna. So because of these factors, Arjuna, on that basis, now Arjuna is saying that no one but you can dispel this doubt. So now let's see what Krishna answers.
Shri Bhagavanuvach Partha naiveha namutra vinashastasya vidyate nahi kalyana krit kaschid durgatim tata gacchati.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Son of Pritha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil.
So now in this section, in the upcoming few verses, Krishna is going to start answering Arjuna's doubt on what is the fate of an unsuccessful yogi. Not only Ashtanga yogi, Arjuna's question was in general. When somebody follows a yogic process and is not successful, then what is the fate of that person? So first of all, he's beginning to answer his question here by saying that such a person has nothing to lose. He does not meet with destruction either in this world or in the spiritual world. So first of all, he's saying one who's engaged in auspicious activities has nothing to lose. 41.
प्राप्य पुण्यकृतां लोकान् उषित्वा शाश्वतीः समाः शुचीनां श्रीमतां गेहे योगभ्रष्टोऽभिजायते.
The unsuccessful yogi, after many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy.
So what Krishna is saying that the unsuccessful yogi, a yogi who has taken to spirituality but has not been able to go all the way for some reason, then what happens to him? Now there are two cases. One who is unsuccessful after short practice and one who is unsuccessful after long practice. Okay, so 41, Krishna is explaining the fate of an unsuccessful yogi after short practice. In 42, he will explain the fate of an unsuccessful yogi after long practice. So if somebody has been somebody has taken to spirituality for a short period of time, then what happens to him? First of all, for many years, he can enjoy on the planets of the pious living activities, or in other words, he enjoys in the heavenly planets for a long time. And after that, because he has to come back, he's taking a human birth, but he's not taking a human birth in an ordinary family. He is going to get the birth in the family of righteous people. So people who are following some principles, some values, some virtuous people. He is not going to take birth in an ordinary family of meat eaters, for example. Okay, and or either that or in the family of rich aristocracy. So either he is going to be born in the family of righteous people, or he is going to be born in the family which is very rich, which has a lot of money. Now, both these situations are very favorable for one to follow a devotional life. Why? Because first of all, if one is brought up in a family of righteous people, then automatically from childhood one is trained up to follow spirituality because they are righteous. On the other hand, when somebody is born in a rich family, then the daily struggle to earn your bread and butter is not there, right? So therefore there is time and there is the facility to follow a spiritual life. If somebody is born in extreme poverty and he has to work 15, 16, 18 hours, working really hard just to earn a single meal in a day, then where is the time for that person to follow a spiritual life? So being born in a rich family and being born in a righteous family, both are very good situations for somebody to follow the spiritual life. And because he is unsuccessful, after following spirituality, he will, after enjoying in the heavenly planets, he gets a birth in either of these two families. So those children who are born in rich families are actually those souls who have done some spirituality in their previous lifetime, but they were not able to complete it. It's not by chance that somebody is born in the house of the Ambanis or any rich person. It's not by chance that it happens. 42.
अथवा योगिनामेव कुले भवति धीमताम् एतद्धि दुर्लभतरं लोके जन्म यदीदृशम्.
Or if unsuccessful after long practice of yoga, he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Certainly, such a birth is rare in this world.
So if the yogi has been practicing spirituality for a long time, then in that case, he will take birth in the family of transcendentalists, which means he will be born in the house of an acharya, of a spiritual master, or in the house of a Goswami, not just a righteous family, but the family of an acharya Goswami, very great transcendentalist. That is the kind of birth he will get in the next lifetime if he is unsuccessful after long practice of yoga. And then Krishna says, such a birth is rare in this world. So if he is born to an acharya, if he is born to a Goswami, obviously he is going to be very, very well trained to take to spirituality, and the right atmosphere is there for him to finish up the business that he left incomplete in the previous lifetime, to finish up in that very birth itself.
तत्र तं बुद्धिसंयोगं लभते पौर्वदेहिकं यतते च ततो भूयः संसिद्धौ कुरु नन्दन.
On taking such a birth, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life and he again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success, O son of Kuru.
So Krishna says that there is no loss, right? He carries on from where he left off in the previous life, and he is getting repeated opportunities to complete what he left incomplete in the previous lifetime.
पूर्वाभ्यासेन तेनैव क्रियते ह्यवशोऽपि सः जिज्ञासुरपि योगस्य शब्दब्रह्मातिवर्तते.
By virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles even without seeking them. Such an inquisitive transcendentalist stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. Mataji, I have one question for the previous 6.43. Why is Lord Krishna is calling O son of Kuru?
Okay, so this explanation is not there in the purport. So I cannot really say why here especially he is referring to him. It can be
Kuru dynasty.
Kuru means he is Kuru Nandana, or he is the son of the Kuru dynasty. So Arjuna himself has not had an ordinary birth. His current birth also is a high birth, right? He is born in a rich, affluent family, and also he is born in the family of transcendentalists, because his ancestors are not ordinary people. They were spiritually very advanced, and it probably can be because his current birth is Kuru Nandana. He's the son of Kuru, so he belongs to he's taken birth in such a family. But Prabhupada has not explained this in the purport. Okay?
Okay. Thank you, Mataji.
You're welcome. Okay, so 44. Here, Krishna is saying that his previous practices, Purva Abhyasena. So, Purva Abhyas, because of his previous, Purva means previous, and Abhyas means practices. Because of the practices of his practices in the previous lifetime, he is getting attracted to those yogic principles. Because he carries on. See, the detachment this yogi carries from the previous lifetime to this lifetime, that consciousness is there. So automatically now in this new life, although the past memory is erased, yes, the impressions are there in the mind. The memory is erased, but the impressions are stored in the mind. So because of that, he is attracted to following taking up to spirituality and following it. He stands above ritualistic principles of the scriptures. So he is not attracted only to karma kanda section of the Vedas. He is attracted to that which goes beyond the karma kanda, going beyond the ritualistic. He is attracted to spiritualistic principles. So, what is spiritual? Spiritual means we know the spirit behind the ritual. That is spiritual. If there is only ritual, right, we do something just in a ritualistic fashion, then we do not understand the reason, the spirit behind why we are doing that ritual. So, most of us, before we come to Krishna consciousness, we do so many things out of a ritual, right? Going to the temple, breaking the coconut, offering some flowers, and we come back. So that is a ritualistic ceremony, but we do not understand the spirit behind the ritual. We do not understand that why we have to go and break the coconut and offer flowers to the Lord, because we are eternal servants of the Lord. That is my eternal position. We don't understand the spirit behind it. So it is only ritual. So they are not attracted only to the rituals, but they are attracted to the spirituals. The spirit plus the ritual is spiritual. Okay, let's read this translation only.
Oh, how glorious are they whose tongues are chanting your holy name. Even if born in the families of dog eaters, such persons are worshipable. Persons who chant the holy name of your lordship must have executed all kinds of austerities and fire sacrifices and achieved all the good manners of the Aryans. To be chanting the holy name of your lordship, they must have bathed at holy places of pilgrimage, studied the Vedas, and fulfilled everything required.
So this verse we have seen before also, but it's very suitable in our context now. So because we are chanting the holy name, it means that in our previous lifetime we have already done everything else that had to be done. We have already lived at holy places, already studied the Vedas. We have already taken our bath in all these holy places of pilgrimage. We have already done everything else. All austerities, all yagyas, everything else we have already done in the previous life. That's why in this lifetime we have taken to the chanting of the holy name. So it's not by chance that we take birth in a particular place. It's not by chance that we get the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. Nothing happens by chance. Prabhupada said nothing happens by chance. There is a reason behind everything. Only thing is the reason is unknown. The reason is unknown, but nothing happens by chance.
प्रयत्नाद्यतमानस्तु योगी संशुद्धकिल्बिषः अनेकजन्मसंसिद्धः ततो याति परां गतिम्.
And when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations, then ultimately achieving perfection after many, many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal.
So finally, how a yogi can attain perfection, Krishna says, by making sincere endeavor and after being washed of all contamination. And he requires many, many births of practice. So Ashtanga yogis, they require many, many births of practice to perfect it. But in Bhakti Yoga, Prabhupada said, you chant 16 rounds, follow the four principles, under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, you can go back to Godhead at the end of this lifetime. That is Prabhupada's promise. We can go back to Godhead at the end of this lifetime. That's why Prabhupada said, we have given so many millions of lives to Maya. Let us dedicate at least this one lifetime, and not even one lifetime. How we, I don't know about anybody else, but definitely I have crossed more than half my lifetime. Yes. So certain percentage, whatever is left of our life, let us at least dedicate that much to Krishna, and then we can go back to Godhead at the end of this lifetime. No need for us to take many, many births of practice. So now we come to the last section, the last two verses of this chapter.
तपस्विभ्योऽधिको योगी ज्ञानिभ्योऽपि मतोऽधिकः कर्मिभ्यश्चाधिको योगी Tasmad yogi bhavarjuna.
A yogi is greater than the ascetic greater than the empiricist, and greater than the fruitative worker. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances, be a yogi.
So here Krishna is saying a yogi or anybody who's following a spiritual process is above than tapasvis. Ascetics means tapasvis, who are doing austerities, right? Who are doing tapasya. He is higher than the ascetics, the tapasvis. He is higher than the jnanis, the empiricists, they have the knowledge, they know the shastra, but they get only Brahman realization. We will see this in more detail when we do the other section which we missed in the beginning of the class. And higher than the karmis. Karmis are fruitive workers. They build roads, they give charity, they dig wells. So these are the fruitive workers. They are attached to the fruits of the work. So a yogi is higher than the tapasvi, higher than the jnani, higher than the karmis. Let's read this.
Yoga is defined as linking consciousness to the supreme absolute truth. Yoga is named differently according to different methods adopted. If linking process is predominantly fruitive acts, called karma yoga. If linking process is predominantly empirical, called jnana yoga. If linking process is predominantly devotional, called bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga is the ultimate perfection of yoga. Anything short of that is imperfect. Ascetics without self-knowledge, tapasvis, imperfect. Empiric knowledge without surrender, jnanis, imperfect. Activities without Krishna consciousness, karmis, waste of time.
So see, the word yoga means linking to the supreme. So in our karma, if we don't link the Lord, if we don't dovetail our activities with the Lord, then it is just karma and we are called karmis. But when we do the activity and give the fruits of our activity to the Lord, then it is called as karma yoga. Because karma, yes, we are doing the activity, but also we are bringing in Krishna in our lives. That's why the word karma yoga. Then when we link with the Lord on the basis of knowledge, on jnana, on the study of the Upanishads, then it is called as jnana yoga. But if we don't bring in Krishna, if the reading or our acquiring knowledge is not connected with Krishna, if we don't bring Krishna, then we are just jnanis. Yes, we may be very intelligent materially, we may have a lot of knowledge, but because Krishna is absent, then we are only called jnanis, right? But when we bring Krishna, then it is called as jnana yoga. So the word yoga means linking with the Supreme. And when the linking process is predominantly devotional, it is called as bhakti yoga. Now, in which chapter has Krishna spoken karma yoga so far?
I think third chapter.
Okay. Any other answer?
Fourth.
Fourth. Any other answer?
Actually, 3 is realization, I think. 4 is work in devotion, I think.
Okay. Anybody else wants to try?
Karma Yoga is the third chapter, I think.
Okay. Anybody else wants to try?
Third chapter and 43 verses. They explained.
So only third chapter?
No, actually, many
Chapters.
as karma.
How many chapters are dedicated to karma yoga?
6 chapters.
Third, fourth, and fifth, Mataji.
Third, fourth, and fifth. No.
All 6 chapters.
Third and fifth.
Spoken about karma yoga.
Okay. Chapter 3 and chapter 5. Krishna has
Yes.
dedicated to explaining karma yoga.
Yes.
What's the title of
Is-
chapter 3? Karma yoga.
That was action. That was actions. No action chapter of that.
3 and
chapter.
5.
3 and 5. Okay, Krishna has dedicated 2 chapters. Chapter 3 and chapter 5 are dedicated to Karma Yoga. Why? Because Krishna himself says that the law of karma is very, very complex to understand. Therefore, he has dedicated 3 and 5 to Karma Yoga. Chapter 4 is dedicated to
Transcendental knowledge.
So which yoga is that?
Bhakti
Jnana
Yoga.
Jnana Yoga, yes. So he has explained Jnana Yoga in chapter 4. And in chapter 6, he has explained Dhyana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga. Now, exclusively, actually, all 18 chapters talk about Bhakti Yoga, okay? But exclusively Bhakti Yoga, Krishna talks of in the middle 6 chapters, which we are going to start in the next class. So middle 6 chapters, he talks exclusively of Bhakti Yoga, and that is why the middle section of the Gita is extra special. The first 6 chapters, he talks about basically how karma leads to bhakti. Okay, and the last 6 chapters, he talks about how jnana leads to bhakti. But middle 6, exclusively Bhakti Yoga, he talks about. Okay, let's finish up this chapter 47.
योगिनामपि सर्वेषां मद्गतेनान्तरात्मना श्रद्धावान् भजते यो मां समे युक्ततमो मतः ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासूपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे आत्मसंयमयोगो नाम षष्ठोऽध्यायः।
And of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all.
So see, in 46, Krishna said, a yogi is higher than the tapasvi, the jnani, and the karmi. Now, is there anyone who is greater than a yogi also? Yes, Krishna says in 47 that one who concentrates on Krishna, renders service to Krishna, worships Krishna, and takes shelter of Krishna, that person is the highest of all, Krishna says. So, what feature of the Lord does the highest yogi concentrate on? Because one may concentrate on Brahman effulgence, that is also a feature of the Lord. Paramatma, that is also a feature of the Lord. But what feature of the Lord does the highest yogi concentrate on?
Bhagavan.
Bhagavan, yes. So this is the object of the ideal yogi's meditation. Krishna as a person, Shyama Sundara, most beautiful form of Krishna. Krishna, yes, he is Brahma Jyoti. It's the light that's coming from his body. But he is not only Brahma Jyoti. Yes, he is Paramatma, but he is not only Paramatma. He is also a person. He is Shyama Sundara, the most beautiful. So the ideal yogi, the highest yogi, is one who meditates on the personal form of the Lord. He is the highest. So this we will do in the next class because we are running out of time. We will conclude this chapter, and we will also do these other very important slides which we missed in the beginning in the next class before we begin with chapter 7. Any questions? I think today we have completed the maximum number of verses in one class, which we've never done before. Okay.
Shyama Sundara means the black beauty, no?
Yeah, Shyama
Sundara means black beauty.
Krishna is black. Krishna is black. Yes, but basically it means that the form of the Lord, the person, God as a person.
when we cannot receive, second question, when we cannot receive the preaching from any bona fide guru, then how we can preach to somebody else if we are not bona fide? While
No,
taking gyan, if you are looking for bona fide, then how you can deliver the things which you are not supposed to be, you are not
yeah.
bona fide.
So the point is, we may be imperfect, but because we are receiving knowledge from the perfect, from Krishna, then the knowledge is perfect. If you can deliver the knowledge without addition, without subtraction, you are just like the postmaster who's just delivering the letter. The
Okay.
postmaster, he receives the letter and he just delivers it. He does not open the envelope. So
I mean that means
yeah,
the same. I mean that the what the knowledge you have received, that only you can deliver. I mean
yes,
to somebody. That's
correct,
mean.
correct,
Okay.
correct.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
In
I,
6.3 is given that if you want to become spiritual, then you have to cease all the material activities and sacrifice all forms of so-called material happiness. So what does that mean exactly? You sacrifice all your material happiness in the sense of maybe buying a new house, new clothes, new car, or whatsoever that gives you happiness. Does that mean that?
that doesn't mean that you don't have to buy a house, you don't have to buy a car. You can buy a house, you can buy a car, but don't be so elated with that car and that house that you forget your spirituality. That should not give you more happiness than your spirituality. Yes, it's there, and whatever you have, whatever you possess materially, you use it in the service of Krishna. You use the
Okay.
car to transport yourself and other people. You went to ISKCON Juhu, right? So yes, then you are using that your material possessions in the service of the Lord. So
Okay.
you can own all these things. You can ride a Mercedes Benz, but use it in the service of the Lord. Don't use it to go to the discotheque. Don't use it to go to the casino. Use it to go to the temple, like
Yeah,
that.
whatever we do, the main reason should be Krishna. That should be used for Krishna in
Yes,
the aspect of.
yes, exactly.
Thank
And you
you.
can use it to do your duties. You want to drop your children to school. Those are your prescribed duties. Of course, you have to do it.
Work, yeah, whatever, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a few announcements, very, very important announcements to make. I don't know if you will like it or not, but henceforward, we will have classes only 3 Saturdays a month. Okay. You may remember when we started these classes, if you remember the invite poster of these classes, it said 3 Saturdays a month. Okay. The reason being that once a month, I do a program in my house, personal, inviting people to my house, and we read something together and we have kirtan and dinner prasad. So the Saturday of the month that I have the program, I will not be able to do the class because obviously I have to cook and do the other things in my house. So that Saturday we will not have our Gita class. Okay. Those who are in Santiago, you are invited to please come and attend this program. Yes. But if you are not in Santiago, we also connect through Zoom. But if you are in India, it will not suit your timing because this is in the evening. So it will be like 3:30 or 4 a.m. in India, something like that. We begin at 5:36 in the evening, Chile time. So if you can join us via Zoom, if the time suits you, you can join us via Zoom. If you are in Santiago, please come and attend. You're most welcome. And otherwise, we really do not have our classes. And the reason why we didn't do this before was because Santiago was under lockdown on the weekends. Weekends, people were not free to go out because of COVID. But now we are in third phase, which means that people can go out on the weekends also. It has opened up very, very recently. So I want to go back to doing my monthly program. So therefore, we will have our classes only 3 Saturdays a month. Unless Chile goes back under lockdown again, then we will come back to our 4 classes. Okay. And the next Saturday is my monthly program. So we will not have our Gita class. So Saturday, 7th August, there is no Gita class. And another announcement I want to make is on the 28th of August, Saturday, 28th of August, we have a special guest who will be giving us a class. He will be summarizing the first 6 chapters of the Gita for us. Okay. So 28th of August is our special class with a special guest. So make sure you attend. And if possible on that day, please turn on your cameras, because after his class, he likes to give blessings. And he likes to see the person behind the camera. Whom is he speaking to? Otherwise, it's like talking to an impersonal Brahma Jyoti, right? We don't know who's behind the camera. So if possible that day, please switch on your cameras and make sure you attend the special class. He's a direct disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He's my Shiksha Guru. There are different gurus, right? We have Shiksha Gurus and Diksha Guru. So, yeah. So he's my Shiksha. He has been guiding me, and he brought me the consciousness for me. So he will be summarizing upon. I requested him to please come and speak to us. So that will be on the 28th of.
What time you have decided at your home?
In my house, the program is at 5:30 p.m. 5:30 p.m. guest starts arriving. At 6 o'clock, we'll have exactly at 6 we will start with japa and the reading of the scriptures.
Is it same time of this class like this on 28th or any other change of time?
Yeah, 28th. Our timing is the same morning time. The evening students will be joining us. Okay, so the slot 2 students will be joining us in slot 1. But for you, it's the same time. It's the same time.
Because it is evening for me now. That correct. This time is suitable for our place.
Yes,
If anything change.
Yeah. No changes for slot 1. Slot 2 people will join us in slot 1. Okay. Any questions? Any doubts?
So very happy. We almost completed 1/3 of the part Bhagavad Gita.
Yes, we
So
have
still
finished
fast.
1/3 of the Gita, and I'm looking forward to the middle 6 chapters. Very nectarian.
And actually, Mataji, one thing I want to share is before also I heard some chapters. The thing here, more interesting aspect is we are conducting exams after conducting chapter, after finishing chapter. In during that case, we are going each and every line. It means it just like how association of devotees makes us more to involve in it. Like that, by knowing each and every point, the interest and our concentration bhakti is increasing as we are reading each and every line, and the reading style makes me different. Actually, I don't know about others. Before I read like for something knowledge or something, but now if I am reading, it's like very bhakti rasa enjoyment. That enjoyment no one can give. The
Yes.
style of reading also changed a lot for me.
I feel very much different, because whenever I want to ask I want to see any question of any paper, for maybe first exam, second exam, again I have to see. It is not that you have remember by heart, or that you have. It is impossible. Even though we know everything, but even though we have to. Otherwise, if I'll try by my hit and trial, it will definitely be wrong. So this is the beauty of this Gita. Whenever we read, we find something, more connectivity.
Yes. Every time we read the Gita, Krishna reveals something new. It's not like reading an ordinary book. Every time, even if you read it 100 million times, even then after you read it one more time, something new Krishna will reveal.
Yes, yes.
I never read this
The
before.
more deep we will go, actually, the more meaningful we will get.
Yes.
At the startup level, before 3 years, when I start reading Gita, I was really nothing. I felt like nothing. This is all general things. I know everything. But after 3 years of this journey in this, again and again, if I am reading that sentence, now it is more meaningful for me.
Yes. That's
It's
why
like
one
more
of
meaningful.
Krishna's, yes, that's why one of Krishna's names is Yogeshwar. He's the master of all mystics. He's very mystical. So yes, of course, it's a very good realization that you have got. Very nice.
As a now also I am a neophyte, but before when I start, I'm nothing. Now also I'm nothing. But at the start level, I thought if I read something, no, we have to do these good things. We have to see equally. Oh, these are all things we know. Why every again they are telling? But it doesn't mean that if we go on practicing this, no, the more meaning we will get. What is the real meaning of that?
Yes, definitely. So Baraya has written in something in the chat. Let's read. Baraya says, Hare Krishna Mataji, today's session has touched my core of the heart. I feel emotional and grateful to Lord Krishna for giving us the opportunity to bless us to have you as a teacher. as a guru. Very thankful to you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So I'm very grateful to all of you and you too, Baraya, for joining us and reading and
Hare Krishna. Hare
yes,
Krishna.
yeah, it's
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
both of us
Hare
mutually
Krishna.
benefit. Yes. Okay. Anything else before we sign off?
So one thing that happy to hear that your the monthly program is coming back. I was talking other day with Sanchari. You will be missing it.
Oh,
It was
yes, we
really
are
good
missing you
actually.
too. Supriyo and Sanjali, they were
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Santiago and now they have moved. Yeah. So they were
yeah, yeah.
regulars at our monthly programs when they were in Santiago. Yes, yes.
Mataji, one question. When we are talking about Nishkam Fal, but then before every chapter there is a Falashruti spoken about. So isn't that contradicting each other?
So Phala, what is the Phala Shruti before the chapter is a spiritual fruit, is the spiritual benefit. So we can have spiritual desires, no problem. But when we are talking about Nishkama means we are talking about material benefit. So it's okay to have spiritual desires, but we should not have material desires. That distinction we have to make.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. What else? Okay, so then
Okay.
see you all in 2 weeks from now. And if you're in Santiago, see you on
Hare
Saturday.
Krishna.
Take care.
Hare
Thank you very
Krishna.
much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.